You know those days at work where you're just firing on all cylinders, totally absorbed, feeling energized when you leave?
Mm-hmm. And then the other days.
Right, the ones where just starting feels like climbing a mountain and you're basically just watching the clock.
Yeah, we've all been there.
So what's the difference, really? Well, a lot of research points towards something called work engagement.
And for you, the learner, wanting to get a quick, solid grasp on complex stuff and, find those actionable insights, this is perfect.
Exactly. Think of this as your shortcut to understanding what really juices people up at work, why it's more than just being happy.
It's deeper than that.
Absolutely. So today we're doing a deep dive into some really comprehensive research specifically, a big meta-analysis.
Which means it pulls together hundreds of other studies, gives you that bird's eye view.
Precisely. All focused on work engagement. So we get a fantastic overview of what fuels it and, importantly, what happens when it's strong. That meta-analysis is a key source for us today.
And we're here to help navigate it, pull out the crucial bits for you.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. What exactly is work engagement?
Well, put simply, it's a positive, fulfilling state of mind related to your job. It's not passive contentment, it's more active, energetic.
Active, okay.
Yeah.
And the researchers break it down, right, into components.
They do. 3 main parts. First is vigor.
Vigor, okay, like energy.
Exactly. High levels of energy, mental resilience, that drive to invest effort and keep going even when things get tough.
Makes sense. What's the second?
Second is dedication. This is about being really involved in your work, feeling a sense of significance, enthusiasm, inspiration, pride, even challenge.
So it's not just showing up, it's feeling connected to the why and having the stamina.
You got it. And the third part is absorption.
Ah, that sounds like being in the zone.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Being fully concentrated, deeply engrossed in your work where time just seems to fly by and it's hard to tear yourself away.
Okay, I definitely know that feeling. Hours can just vanish. But the research we looked at suggests these 3 maybe aren't created equal.
That seems to be the case. Vigor and dedication are increasingly seen as the real core of engagement.
Really? What about absorption?
Absorption is definitely part of the picture, and it feels great, very similar to flow. But some research suggests it might be more like a consequence, or maybe a more transient state, like a really intense mood that comes and goes. Vigor and dedication seem more stable.
Interesting distinction. Okay, so if vigor and dedication are core, how do we get a handle on what creates them? Our sources point to the Job Demands Resources model, JDR.
Yes, the JDR model. It's probably the leading framework right now for understanding well-being and motivation at work.
Sounds important, maybe a little complex.
It can seem that way, but the core idea is quite straightforward. It basically says your work experience is shaped by 2 main types of factors: job demands and job resources.
Okay, job demands. That sounds like the stressful stuff. Workload, pressure.
Exactly. Aspects of the job that require sustained effort, physical, cognitive, emotional, and therefore have certain costs associated with them. Think deadlines, complex tasks, emotional labor.
Got it. So job resources must be the flip side, the things that help.
Precisely. Job resources are the aspects of the job that help you achieve work goals, reduce job demands and their associated costs, and also stimulate personal growth, learning, and development.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Things like autonomy, having control over your work, social support from colleagues or supervisors, feedback, opportunities for learning, career development possibilities.
Right, so it's a balance. Too many demands, not enough resources, leads to trouble, like burnout.
That's one pathway the model describes the health impairment process. High demands chip away at your energy, and without resources to buffer them or replenish energy, you head towards exhaustion, burnout.
Okay, that makes sense.
But there's also the motivational process.
The more positive side.
Exactly. Job resources aren't just protective, they're intrinsically motivating. They fulfill basic psychological needs for autonomy, competence, relatedness, and that fosters work engagement.
So resources don't just stop the bad stuff, they actively fuel the good stuff, like engagement.
That's the key idea. And engaged employees, in turn, tend to perform better, be more committed.
Now, the study also mentioned something about different types of demands. Challenge versus hindrance. That feels important.
It's a crucial distinction. Not all demands are bad for engagement.
Okay.
Hindrance demands are the obstacles. Think red tape, role ambiguity, pointless meetings, lack of supplies. Things that just get in the way of doing your job, those tend to kill engagement and motivation.
Right, the frustrating stuff.
Exactly. But challenge demands are different. These are things like high workload, time pressure, maybe complex problem solving. They require effort, yes, but they also offer the potential for growth, learning, mastery, future gains.
So like a tough but rewarding project.
Precisely. If you have the resources to meet them, challenge demands can actually boost engagement because overcoming them feels good, like an accomplishment.
So the goal isn't just less demands, it's fewer hindrances and maybe manageable challenges with good support.
You've got it. It's about managing the type of demand and ensuring resources are adequate.
Okay, that really clarifies things. So let's dig into those resources then. The meta-analysis found that boosting resources is the main path to engagement. It grouped them into 5 categories.
That's right. 5 key areas emerged from analyzing all those studies: social resources, job resources, development resources, leadership, and personal resources.
Let's take them one by one. Social resources that support from people.
Yep. Support from your boss, support from your colleagues, basically feeling like people have your back.
Seems obvious that would help. But the study found something interesting about organizational versus individual support.
It did. While day-to-day support from your manager and team matters, the research suggested that a generally supportive organizational climate, the overall culture, might have a more enduring effect on engagement over time.
Okay. And how strong was the overall link for social support?
The meta-analysis found a moderate to low correlation, actually, around 0.36, 0.36.
Moderate to low. That's maybe less than I'd expect.
And interestingly, support specifically from coworkers showed the weakest link within that category, only 0.27.
Wow. Okay. Maybe it's more about the manager and the overall environment.
That could be one interpretation. Perhaps leader support and organizational culture provide more structural, consistent resources than peer support, which might fluctuate more.
Interesting. Okay, what about the next category? Job resources. Things inherent to the job itself.
Right. Things like task variety, autonomy, or job control, skill utilization. Having interesting work you have some say over.
And the link there.
Also, moderate to low, similar to social resources overall, about 0.37,
Right.
0.37. So helpful, contributes, but maybe not the absolute biggest lever according to this huge data set.
Okay, so social support, job design. Important, but perhaps not the strongest drivers. What about development resources? Learning, feedback.
Now we're seeing a stronger connection. Development resources, things like getting feedback, opportunities to learn and develop skills, seeing career prospects showed a moderate to high correlation with engagement, around 0.4, 0.5. Okay. Noticeably stronger.
Yes, statistically stronger than both social and job resources. It really suggests that feeling like you're growing, mastering things, moving forward, that's a powerful engine for engagement.
That resonates. People want to feel they're progressing. And there was a cultural point about feedback.
Yes, this was fascinating. The link between feedback and engagement was significantly stronger in collectivist cultures. Think many East Asian countries compared to individualistic cultures like the US or Western Europe. The correlation was up at 0.59 in collectivist settings.
Wow. Why might that be?
Well, one hypothesis is that in collectivist cultures, feedback might be seen less as individual critique and more as crucial information for maintaining group harmony, fulfilling one's role effectively within the collective. It's perhaps valued differently.
That's a really important nuance. Okay, 4th category, leadership, but specifically engaging leadership.
Right, not just any leadership, but leadership behaviors specifically identified as fostering engagement.
What does that look like? It typically involves 3 things. Inspiring followers, often through vision and optimism, strengthening them by granting autonomy, delegating responsibility, encouraging self-development, and connecting them, fostering collaboration, team spirit, and aligning individual work with the bigger picture.
So inspire, strengthen, connect, and the link.
Also moderate to high, 0.46, 0.46, very similar impact to development resources. Good leadership clearly matters a lot.
Makes perfect sense. Empowering people, giving them purpose. Okay, last one. Personal resources. This is about the individual.
Exactly. This is about the psychological capital you bring to the table. Your own internal strength and positive beliefs.
Like what specifically?
Things like self-efficacy, believing you can succeed. Resilience, bouncing back from adversity. Optimism, having a positive outlook. And proactivity, taking initiative, seeking opportunities.
So your own mindset and internal toolkit. How strong was this link?
Also moderate to high, and actually the strongest statistically among the resource categories examined closely here. 0.48, 0.48, slightly edging out development and leadership.
Whoa. So our own inner resources are potentially the most powerful factor.
According to this analysis, yes. They showed a very robust link, and some specific ones were particularly potent. Resilience came in at 0.57, proactivity at 0.55, and optimism also at 0.55.
That's really powerful. It suggests we have a significant degree of control ourselves. Was there anything else about personal resources?
One interesting finding was that the link between personal resources and engagement was stronger for people with university degrees.
Why might that be? More self-awareness, better coping strategies learned.
It's hard to say definitively from this data, but it could be related to skills developed through higher education, maybe greater perceived control or opportunities that allow those personal resources to be deployed more effectively. More research needed there for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, this gives us a fantastic picture of the drivers, so let's flip it. What are the results, the outcomes? Why is engagement so important?
Well, the meta-analysis shows clear positive consequences. The strongest connections were found with attitudes towards the job itself.
Like satisfaction.
Exactly. Job satisfaction showed a strong correlation, 0.60, and even slightly stronger was organizational commitment, feeling loyal and attached to the company at 0.63.
Very strong links. So if you're engaged, you're highly likely to like your job and want to stay.
Pretty much, which leads to the next point. Turnover intention.
Right, wanting to leave. That should be lower if you're engaged.
Correct. There was a moderate to high negative correlation, 0.43, minimum 0.43. Higher engagement means lower intention to quit.
Makes sense. Were there any nuances there?
Yes, quite a few actually. That link was weaker for certain groups like civil servants, volunteer workers, and educators.
Maybe job security plays a role, or different motivators.
Could be. Or maybe engagement manifests differently. Also, interestingly, in studies where the sample had a higher percentage of managers, the negative link between engagement and turnover intention was stronger.
Really? Why? Maybe managers feel the impact of engagement, or lack thereof, more acutely, or have more options.
Again, speculative, but it suggests context matters a lot for that specific outcome. But what about actual job performance?
Yes, the bottom line for many organizations.
There was a solid moderate to high positive link there, too. 0.49. 0.49. Engaged employees generally perform better.
Okay, so better attitudes, less likely to leave, better performance. That's a strong business case. What about just general well-being outside of work?
The connections there were more moderate generally. Things like self-reported general health showed a correlation of 0.37. Psychological distress had a negative link, minus 0.37, and life satisfaction was 0.38.
1.38.
So positive links, but not as strong as the job-specific attitudes.
Correct. It seems work engagement's primary impact zone is really within the work domain itself, how you feel about your job, how you perform in it, whether you stay. It contributes to overall well-being, but maybe less directly than it impacts work attitudes. And did they look at the different components, vigor, dedication, absorption, and how they relate to these outcomes?
They did. And reinforcing that earlier point about vigor and dedication being core,
Yeah.
dedication showed statistically stronger links with job satisfaction and a stronger negative link with turnover intention compared to absorption.
Okay, so that feeling of meaning and pride, dedication, seems particularly crucial for keeping people happy and committed.
It really seems to be a key part of the equation.
This has been incredibly thorough. We've covered the what, the why, the so what. Now, the study mentioned a tool, the UWES, Utrecht Work Engagement Scale.
Ah, yes, the UWES. That's simply the most widely used questionnaire, the main tool researchers and practitioners use to actually measure work engagement levels.
How does it work?
It asks questions designed to tap into those three dimensions: vigor, dedication, and absorption. You rate how often you feel certain ways about your work.
And there are different lengths.
Yes, there's the original 17-item version, a shorter 9-item one, UWS 9, and a very brief 3-item one, UWS 3. Just one question per dimension.
Handy to have shorter options. Did the study say anything about how well the short one works?
It did. The meta-analysis found that while the UWS-3, the shortest one, tended to show slightly lower correlations with other variables compared to the longer versions,
But
the differences weren't actually statistically significant.
so the 3-item version is basically good enough.
It suggests it's a pretty practical and efficient tool. You don't lose a huge amount of accuracy by using the super short version, which is great for surveys where you want high participation.
That's a really useful takeaway for anyone wanting to measure this stuff. Okay, let's try and boil this down. What are the absolute key takeaways for you, the learner, from this deep dive?
I'd say number one, resources are king when it comes to boosting engagement. Focus on increasing resources rather than just decreasing demands, unless they're hindrance demands.
And which resources pack the biggest punch?
According to this large analysis, development resources, learning, feedback, career path, and your own personal resources. Resilience, optimism, proactivity showed the strongest links, followed closely by engaging leadership. Social support and job design matter too, just maybe slightly less strongly on average across all these studies.
Got it. And the payoff for engagement.
Big impact on job satisfaction and commitment. People feel better about their work and are more loyal. Also, a solid positive link to job performance and a negative link to wanting to quit.
Though remember the nuances there.
Exactly. That turnover link can vary by profession, maybe management level, and the impact of feedback might differ across cultures. Context is important.
Okay. So for you, the learner, maybe take a second now to think about your own work. What resources feel abundant? Where could things be strengthened?
Yeah, thinking about those 5 types, social, job, development, leadership, personal, which ones seem to make the biggest difference in your day-to-day experience of engagement? Or for your team, if you manage people?
It's a really practical framework to apply.
Absolutely. And this deep dive gives you that solid foundation. There's always more to explore, of course, specific ways to build resilience or practical steps for being a more engaging leader.
We hope this sparks some reflection, maybe some questions or sharing of your own experiences.
Definitely.
And maybe one final thought to leave you with, something to chew on. If the benefits of work engagement are so clear for people and for organizations, why do you think some organizations still seem to struggle to really prioritize it, to embed it in their strategy and culture day to day?
That's a good question to ponder.